Well. You're listening to Gloves Off with Professor Buitrón. Alright then, I may say words on point, straightforward. No jibber jabber, everybody forward. Issues, facts and solution. Get it at Gloves Off with Professor Buitrón. Alright, what other thing is a revolution? Get it on point with Professor Buitrón. Gloves Off, no nonsense issues, politics, community. A better men follow reader. Gloves Off, a revolutionary show with everything that you need to know. With Professor Buitrón. Watch ya!
Gloves Off is always on point. Bringing you the best on current issues, community affairs, and the happenings around us. This segment of Gloves Off is brought to you by the best, so pay them a visit. Check them out. This is Gloves Off.
Back at you in Gloves Off. I'm Professor Buitrón. I have a great guest, which is Guru Santiago Dobles. How are we doing, Guru? Doing good?
Doing great, Hormat, and thank you for having me on here.
Well, you know, I had to because we've always been talking. We're talking about Silat and self-defense and everything that's going on right now, especially with the COVID and the scamdemic and all that good stuff.
Yeah, the liars.
And we're trying to see how it's affected all the different martial arts throughout, you know?
Gotcha.
And I know that you have a group of Silat. But let's touch base on Silat. How did you get involved with Silat? How did you start with Silat?
I started in the late 90s. We had talked before about this. I went to a Jeet Kune Do school in Miami that had a Dan Asano type school, and it had all the different arts. And in there, I saw a little bit of Silat being displayed, and it caught my attention. So I was 19 when I started, and I haven't stopped since. From that introduction of Mafalindo Silat, if you will, I got into Serak and just fell in love with it, you know. And throughout the last pretty much 20 years, got involved with Uncle Bill, who's my direct teacher now as of the last 10 years. But met him when I was younger. He told me to research Uncle Paul, Uncle Victor, and through that, I got into meeting Guru Stephen Plink, Guru Cliff Stewart, and after 10 years of Uncle Paul's lineage, Uncle Bill said that he would start teaching me his way of Serak, and that's where we've been in the last 10 years. So you put that together, it's a little over 20 years of work, and it's something I do every day personally. And I teach a group of guys here in Miami, guys and girls, and been teaching since 2004. and it's just become a way of life, you know. And we had talked about this before. The Serak family is really a family, you know, and the Dutoirs have been really family to me. I mean, Uncle basically adopted me like a son, and through him, I was able to. There was a little glimpse of time there before Uncle Maurice died and before Uncle Paul died, where there was a slight hint of unity again. And I was lucky enough to talk to them on the phone before they both passed away. So I was able to get connected, if you will, with that family. So not just from Uncle Bill, but
Absolutely, they're all family. They're great individuals. I
they
felt, you know, I became very good friends with Pac Vic and
yeah,
studied with him and cross trained with him. He came over and would be with my father, and they used to cross reference more than anything else, and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
very
for sure.
interesting. There's a lot of similarities with the Cipote, especially Luke Parisian as well with that. You know, I've talked
Yep,
extensively with Uncle about it, and the problem is that I find is that Silat is a specialized art, you know, especially Serak. You know, there's a lot of
absolutely.
Silat throughout. It's beautiful, and I'm not degrading anybody because they're all great individuals. And it takes time. It takes a different person to kind of follow Serak. Okay,
Yeah, absolutely,
let's say.
absolutely.
And uncles taught a lot. We've cross-referenced his family always in much respect with everybody, and all the first generations, Steve Garten to
Yeah,
Plink, and everybody got their gist of what has happened with Silat, and they've all great instructors. They all keep pushing forward, right? But
right,
you've been
right.
stuck in Miami, pushing it forward in Miami. How has Miami and taken to Silat? Do they look for you? How, because of a Jeet Kune Do connection, or because it's a eclectic art? What do you think?
Um, well, for sure, I can tell you in the last 5 years, there's been more interest in Silat. I don't know if that's because of YouTube or because of the movies, because lately you've seen a lot of Silat in the movies. Um, so I tend to get students that have never done anything before, but somehow they know about Silat. So my guess is they're watching YouTube videos, or they're watching those Silat movies that came out, like The Raid and things like that. So I have those type of students, and then I have guys that used to train at Jeet Kune Do schools or came from Guru Dan Asano's group that wanted to go deeper into Silat. And then I have another group of guys that are um, law enforcement or military that are looking for something that is close quarter and weaponry based. And a lot of them tend to know about Silat. I'm guessing from reading magazines or that kind of thing. And then there's a fourth group, which a lot of guys that used to do ninjutsu from the Bujinkan. So a lot of those guys end up coming this way. Um, so it's a mix of people. You know, you have either the guys that are already black belts or instructors in other schools and other styles, or people that have no knowledge of it whatsoever, or no background. So it's kind of interesting to see that, because then you see guys like, I have students that never did anything before, and all they've done Serak, and then they tend to pick it up differently than the ones that have had other arts. You know, so it's kind of
Absolutely.
interesting. Yeah, it's a interesting thing to see. And what you talked about right now, I'm technically second generation, because my first teachers were Guru Plink, Guru Cliff, even Guru Cas Magda. Um, but the one that really took me further was Guru Cliff and Guru Plink. And then I went directly to Uncle Bill, and even with Uncle Paul's son, Marcelino, but mainly with Uncle Bill, of course. So I got a direct link to Uncle Bill, you know, just like the guys that trained with Uncle Paul before. So to me, I've learned and felt that the art was never really meant to be commercial. So I keep it the same way. We train in my garage, my backyard, my kitchen, same way Uncle does, you know. Uncle has his
And, that, and,
classes on Thursday night, and Sunday morning I have the same thing, you know.
and you know, and I understand the flood because Uncle Bill and of course Pac Vic, and we talked
Yeah,
extensively about why it was done that way, and you can see the differences because of the whole segregation, discrimination that was in Indonesia per se, you know, and
100%.
a lot of people do not
100%.
understand understand that. So a lot of these arts we're taking into family, we're taking into select few, we're taking into, guess what, we're in the middle of a war. You're going to start learning it. You're going to start learning it right here. And that kind of, those habits formulated and continued on. And it's very interesting that they are the pioneers of Silat here in the States. And of course, there's many other great gurus that have come
first to bring it over here, and then I think later and readers.
Right.
I heard from Guru Plink that one of the DeFries family also came, but was never teaching publicly. So you had the DeFries, you had the readers, the Wetzel family, and then later I would say the next one to bring the wave of Sumatran Silat was Richard de Boerds with Hanafi, Pedicure Hanafi.
Right. A long time ago, when I used to teach in France, there was a group that was in this one club that I used to visit, and they would train before we would do Boat Francais. And when I walked in, there was Fontaine de Bois, and they were from Indonesia. Wow. And very interesting individuals. And in fact, he was a physician, and he ended up being the ring physician when we used to compete. So we became very, very, he would always see me around. And their Silat was a lot different than what I see the Silat here. It was a lot more punching involved, and it was very, very interesting to see. And it was very, but it was, the way they taught it there was a subculture. Like you only, if you were from Indonesia, you went there. Understand what I'm saying?
I understand. Yep.
Wasn't open. Yes, they had a couple of other French that were there, but basically it was French that were from Indonesia. They lived in Paris. They were kind of meet like a cultural center. They had some other students, but it was not a big school. But they had, it was kind of confined per se. And it's interesting to see how has the COVID affected your all's training? Of course, everybody's in lockdown. Has that affected the guys?
It definitely, I mean, we stopped class altogether. So on one hand, as an instructor, as a Serak teacher, I looked at it like, oh, this is a great chance for the students to finally have to practice their jurus and their forms and their lankas and kudas on their own, right? So I'm curious to see how they're going to do when they come back to class, because as you know, that art is, a lot of it is your own training and then training with partners. But it definitely affected the fact that, nobody's come to class. We haven't had class. And I know a lot of my guys are anxious to train. But what I'm having an issue with is if you see the way the county is doing regulations, for martial arts schools to open, they have to stay 6 feet apart with masks on, or 10 feet apart without masks on, which is not a problem. We have plenty of stuff that we could train still at those distances, right? But I don't like the idea that there's a control of what we can do and what we can't do, which, again, it doesn't really matter because I train privately in my garage anyways, so I can kind of do whatever I want. But it's interesting to see how the local martial community is doing things with that,
Here, it started like that. We're in phase 3 in certain things. And so, we can have class. What I did here when we reopened, I said, okay, there's only going to be 6 per class, and that's it. We'll open up more classes, but it's going to be 6 per class.
Okay.
I'm not accepting beginners towards the other previous classes. They have other classes and so on. So, I teach, of course, we teach the Savat, Kempo, and also Capoeira, and my wife, and we've separated that. But we lost a lot of members because there's a lot of people that are still afraid. There's a lot of schools here that are not opening. I know a lot of individuals in Houston and in Dallas and San Antonio that their schools are not going to open up again.
Right.
Because
I'm hearing that here too. I'm seeing that here as well. So
it's going to put a damper to the martial arts. I think these babysitting schools are no longer going to be around.
I think you're right. And on the other hand, arts that have always been war arts, let's say, they're going to be continue to be trained underground, and I think that's what we're seeing. I think that's
That's what's going to happen.
Yep.
It's going to hit. It's going to head that way. It's
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
head that way, and
absolutely.
you're going to see that transversion to that direction.
Right,
You're,
right.
you're going to see that. And I think this COVID's going to be with us for a while now. I think every flu that comes up, it's going to be a COVID. I think it's going to the scams. They're going to milk this scam for as long as they can.
Yeah, because they're profiting from it big time, So the media is profiting from it. The health organizations are profiting from it. The hospitals are profiting from it, et cetera, et cetera. So it's in their interest to keep us having to play their scamdemic routine,
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct, and it's sad to see, and also with all the riots that are going on, you're going to start seeing a lot of people, especially with the defunding of police, with many cities are doing. You're going to start seeing people start looking for martial arts schools.
Oh yeah. And on the same token, I think we're going to see also people looking to find those kind of arts, but also to to snitch on people who are doing those kind of arts. Does that make sense?
I understand. Absolutely. Yeah. And so it's going to be interesting as what's going to happen in the near future. What do you think about all the riots and so on and so forth, and what you see in the riots?
Well, I think we talked about this before. I grew up in Venezuela. I grew up in the U.S., but every summer I went to Venezuela since I was a kid, since I was 2 years old until I was 17. I saw people get stabbed. I've seen people get looted, all kinds of crap, right? I've seen this before in the third world countries. And what we're seeing, unfortunately, is you have people that have a reason to protest, but you have people instigating these riots for other agendas, right? Clearly, there's certain agendas here that want to push anti-capitalist ideals, right? Sure. And they're violent, and I would say cowardice, because they're using this cowardly way of doing this violent stuff, smashing cars, smashing people's businesses, and they're not really realizing that they're actually hurting the community much more, right? And we talked about this before. Eventually, the more violent people who are holding back are going to say, hey, you know what, enough is enough. And you're going to see people, you're going to see the real patriots and the real Minutemen rise up and put a stop to it if nobody else will,
You're seeing that right now. I mean, right now at this point in time, you have all the ingredients for hell to be unleashed, and people are not understanding that.
Yep.
You have people that are very skilled out there. You have people that are willing out there. You have people that have found peace, and they're sticking with the peace, and they're working with their families and so on and so forth. And that peace is being disrupted. And once they wake up that animal, it's going to be very, very hard to put it back to sleep. Until it goes out there and finishes its job. And now I see the government pushing it, and I see the rioters pushing it at the same time. It's something that they're not expected to be up there, because it's something that they're not going to like. Once it stands up, and I'm not for violence. I'm not for a type of rise or civil war. None of that. I don't want to see that. But what I'm seeing is you're pushing somebody into a fight, and that person's in where it's going to and the true Americans are going to stand up and say, now it's time to fight. And the tenacity, the American tenacity, is a lot different than any of the other nations, period. And we've seen that already. And people afraid of that. And once that stands up, it's going to be very, very hard to put it back down to sleep until the job is finished.
Yeah, and I think also on another way of looking at it, I think they're collecting data to see what it's going to take, right? How long can they push to see how they're going to get the people who are armed and dangerous to come out and really do what they have to do, and I think part of this defunding police crap, what's going to happen? They defund the police, right? Crime is going to rise, but guess what? It's also going to give them an open door to create more cybersecurity, drone surveillance, cyber surveillance, et cetera, et cetera.
That's what's going on here.
Who's profiting from that? You know what I mean?
It's like in Seattle. You just have these anarchists, basically.
Yeah.
They set up 6, 7 blocks, and they blocked it off, and nobody can go in, and it's just and they have a warlord, and it's funny because everything they claim that they hate about the United States, they're doing, and it's just a figment of their imagination, and they're doing it, and
they built a wall. They built the wall.
And you're really. And they're doing this thing in here, and it had to have had some planning for you to build a wall around this whole set of blocks. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's going to be interesting how we quash that, and it's going to be quashed. You start seeing a lot of people on the left say it's the white extremists that are in there. No. These are your little. These are the mommy's little terrorists that are there.
Yeah. The little. Mantifa, the little Antifa punks.
And that's basically what you have in there. That and Black Lives Matter. You also have the John Brown Club that are in there, and it's a mixture there that people are going to say, you know what, enough's enough.
Right.
And the defunding of the police should not happen. I think we need better training for police.
I agree 100%.
For them to be able to competently do something.
And not just training. Yes, they need better martial training, better firearm training, better situational training, but they also need better mental health opportunities for mental health to occur. Mental health therapy, whatever the case may be. But they need some of that.
Because they're gonna defund it, and the first thing they're gonna defund is what? The training.
Exactly.
They don't have that good training. What the police departments do is they get some guy or two, and they'll send them off to get a certificate for a weekend of some tactical nonsense martial art crap that somebody built that never had the basics done, and they built, because that's basically what you see out there. Some guy that was in law enforcement that took a couple of classes here or there, and all of a sudden build this nonsense out there and trying to tell people that's going to work. It's not going to work if you don't understand what it is.
It's not going to work.
So what happens with them? They teach them these techniques that they do not have the technique to apply for it.
Correct.
Okay?
Nor the refinement. Needed.
So what happens is they'll muscle the person down, and while they're muscling them, what's going to happen? They're progressing the violence, and it's not that way.
Right. And we touched upon it the other day about, okay, so the guy takes the guy down, puts the knee on him, but now he's open for violent attacks from the masses. So they're not being taught how to deal with multiple attackers, nor the chaos that occurs in that type of scenario.
Yep. And that's what people do not understand. Are they bad badges? Yes, there are. We need to protect the good ones and eliminate
the good ones. There's good ones. I mean, I have cop students that are fantastic.
They're great police, but we have to stop the bad and remove them from the department.
Absolutely.
Let's change this a little bit into the Silat. Now let's put it a couple of months from now. How are you going to expand your training? I understand you're keeping it in-house, but how are we going to do it to gain more students back in?
I definitely am probably going to do more seminars at some point once travel is available. But for sure, I'm going to do similar to what you did. I'm going to have the advanced students work together, and then have the intermediate students work together, and then have a beginners type class, and then maybe have a class where all levels are welcome once we can get into that phase of sparring and touching hands and things like that, which I guess would be like your phase 3. But I'm still going to keep it semi-private in the sense that I'm probably never going to rent a location. I have my house and I have my gym in my house. And so a lot of what we do is not just the combative aspect, but Uncle's wellness aspect, you know, the Qigong and of course the strength training, both from the Silat and Uncle Bill's perspective of the Kuntao, but also from old school American powerlifting and Soviet powerlifting, you know, which, I mean, strength is strength, you know, strength carries over into everything you do. So we're a big believer in that, you know.
All righty, Guru. It's a great pleasure talking with you always. And
You
seeing
too,
your
man.
insights.
I wanted to share something with you real quick, if you have a moment. I
Sure,
know
go ahead.
you're going to be one of the few people that will appreciate this. This was a gift given to me. I don't know if you can read it, but I'll zoom out so you can see it. This was Pendecker Paul's knife, and it was one of the gifts given to me after he passed. And here's another one that you'll appreciate. This was the last time I saw Uncle Bill here in Miami. He said, of course, jokingly, you know, the brothers always have a joke as to who's stronger, who's better, who has the better knife. So Uncle gave me his Golok. And of course,
That's nice.
it's bigger and sharper, but it's, I don't know if you can see it, but it's a great little blade. So, you
Nice
know,
blade.
I was always encouraged by them to train with the live blades as well as the fake ones, you know, and I'm a firm believer of that. But I thought you'd appreciate those.
They're great blades and great gifts, and keep the tradition moving forward.
Oh, I do,
And-
man. You know, I love the art and I love the culture of it, you know.
Absolutely. So again, you stay safe.
Another quick one for you. A lot of people don't know this one, right? But a lot of people's Serak test was to do jurus in front of the instructors, right? My first Serak test was actually to bodyguard a very famous rapper who's now a multi-billionaire, but he's alive today because of Serak.
Oh, good. Awesome.
Yeah. I'll tell you that story another day, but just so you know.
You be safe and stay calm and stay frosty.
You too, brother. You too. And thank you so much, and the best to your family, Tormat.